Stevie, it's the tie of the round. It's Arsenal against Liverpool. But with no Mohamed Salah, is it still the three up top, or is it a change of shape, perhaps, for Jurgen Klopp to maybe keep Arsenal guessing ahead of this one?
No, not a chance. Change of shape. I mean, listen, when Liverpool couldn't string a pass together and we're losing so many games, he never changed the system. So I don't see him changing it now. And I guess at the end of the day, you've got to think that, listen, as big a blow as it is losing Mohamed Salah, the fact is Liverpool, as far as front players are concerned, are in good shape. You know, you're still looking at Diaz, you're still looking at Nunes, Jota's back, and you got Gakpo. So you even though you've lost Salah, you've still got a choice. You've still got decisions to make. I mean, that's a great place to be in, and you've got to say that that's down to good planning. The fact that Liverpool can rotate when Salah's there, 5 guys who are all quality. Let's be honest. Listen, Mo Salah obviously stands alone as far as goal scoring and his importance to the team. But you know there is absolute quality there. There's players there that can score goals. So yeah, I expect Liverpool to play with a front three. The question is who sits out. My guess would be that Gakpo sits out. That's what I would do. And then I guess it depends on which way you want to go. Do you play Jota through the middle, or do you play him wide? So as I said, no Salah, but Klopp still has options and decisions to make, which is always a good place to be in.
Of those 4 players you mentioned, who's best suited to play the role on the right-hand side?
That's a tough one because I think Jota, Jota's a goal scorer, and it's. I don't think it's an easy decision, to be honest. Listen, they could all do a job. Let me just put it that way. They could all do a job. It just depends on Klopp's personal choice of who can do the job better. So I'm actually quite comfortable with any of them. Really, Jota can do it. Nunes can do it. If you switch Diaz over to the right hand side, he could do it and put Nunes or Jota on the left, or stick Jota through the middle. I mean, I really don't think there's an obvious candidate that you can turn around and say, well, absolutely Jota is the man to play on the right, because whether it's Jota, whether it's Nunes, whether it's Diaz, or whether it's Gakpo, I think you get the same performance. I think they're all capable of doing a job, and that really is what Klopp's looking for as far as the defensive side of the game. It's about getting somebody to do a job. So I'm not going to pick one of them to play in the right because I think they could all do it.
Rob, let's talk Arsenal. 2-0 defeat at home to West Ham. 2-1 defeat against Fulham. Does this now become a more important game? And it's important already against Liverpool because of those previous 2 results for Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, I mean, that really is the golden question with Arsenal. Arteta won it with Arsenal in 2020, but they haven't been past the 4th round since. And Arsenal went to City in the 4th round last year and they rested Ramsdale, Odegaard, Martinelli, White, Zinchenko, all left out, and Arsenal lost to City and went out. I imagine that Arteta, in a normal season with his team, hopeful of really challenging for the Premier League title, would probably do the same again. The problem is that you just referenced those results over Christmas. It's been a pretty disastrous Christmas period, really, in the Premier League. And you do wonder if you were to throw another defeat, an FA Cup defeat, on top of that, particularly at home, whether that would increase the pressure a little bit. I'm not suggesting that Arteta's going to get sacked if they lose to Liverpool, but it's another defeat that Arteta probably could do without. You imagine that if Christmas had gone really well and they'd taken maximum points from the Premier League games, that Arteta may feel a bit more comfortable in rotating a few and resting players, and talking to the fans and saying, we had to rest players because the idea is to go and win the Premier League title. But because it's not gone well over Christmas, I do wonder whether Arteta may second guess himself a little bit, and maybe the number of changes that he was planning to make against Liverpool, maybe we'll see a few more regular players start that game in the hope that they can knock Liverpool out and move on.
What's happened at Arsenal? Because it's not like one defeat and it's like, we saw that coming. You didn't. That's what happens. But back-to-back defeats, and for them to come out and say that the spirit wasn't there, it's the worst we've played. Is that a concern? and can they put it right against Liverpool with a good win and an excellent performance?
Well, that's the beauty of the FA Cup, that if they were to beat Liverpool and knock them out of the FA Cup, then immediately the mood lifts, and perhaps you're not talking as much about defeats to West Ham and defeats to Fulham. It's a big Premier League game in the FA Cup, and I'm sure that Arsenal really would have preferred a lower league team at home just to cruise through and move on. The only positive really of having Liverpool in the third round is if you were to go and win that game, Liverpool, who are also a side who have got ambitions about winning the Premier League title, that the mood lifts even more than if it had been a Preston or a Wigan. So yeah, I mean, it does become very important given what's gone before. I was surprised to hear some of the comments coming out of Arsenal after their little run. Teams challenging for titles go through these little sticky spells. You just have to get out of it as quickly as possible, and to beat Liverpool in the FA Cup on third round weekend is a great way of getting out of it quickly.
Stevie, the recent game at Anfield, the 1-1 draw, I thought was really entertaining, and it was probably a fair result. Is that where we are with these two teams right now? They're really close, and it's very hard to separate.
Yeah, as far as both first teams are concerned, yeah, it is tight. But I can't help thinking that Arteta is going to be sitting in his office, and he's going to have the little voice on this shoulder, and he's going to have a little voice on this shoulder, and it's going to be, do we stick with the plan or do we need to win a game? And I think it will be interesting which one he goes for, because he'll be sitting with his staff and they'll be sitting going, look, we planned that the third round of the FA Cup wasn't going to be as important because we obviously thought we were going to be challenging for the Premier League and we would win our group in the Champions League, and we sat down and we mapped out what we hoped the season would look like, and the third round of the FA Cup was not top of the list. That really is what the problem is this weekend for Arteta, because particularly being at home as well, that makes it even harder, because to lose at home again would be, as we know, football fans are a little fickle, and some of the vultures are kind of swirling over the top of the stadium already. I mean, incredibly. So yeah, I'll be interested to see which little voice wins the battle, and I'm going to suggest that he sticks to the plan, and it will not be his first team.
It's interesting that you've both brought up that Rob said that Mikel Arteta might second guess himself. Stevie says he's got Arteta on that shoulder and one on that shoulder. Is there an element of maybe trying to overcomplicate this? Is it not just a case? Stevie's just said he doesn't think he might play his full strength first side, Rob. This is actually not a bad game to focus on, to get the win and to get back on track. Just do what you would normally do for a Premier League game, because you've got one game in 2 weeks coming up with this kind of half winter break. So just do it. Just get on with it. Play the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for clues about what Arteta might do, I mentioned that fourth round tie that they had at City last season, where he did rest a lot of players. The problem with last season was because of the World Cup, the entire campaign was condensed and there was fixtures flying around everywhere. There was games every 3 days for the best part of 10 months. You mentioned there about January for the most of the big Premier League sides. January is relatively clear in that they have got that winter break back. They're not going to play 6, 7, 8 games in January. They're only going to play 3 or 4. And so maybe Arteta looks at it and goes, well, this is a bit of a different situation than it was last season. We're not playing as many games in January. We can afford to play some of our starters. I think the problem he's got is that from everything that Jurgen Klopp said, it sounds like he's going to pick a full strength team. So if he's hoping that maybe Klopp rests a few and he can rest a few, and then maybe they can match teams in that way, I don't think that's going to happen. And Stevie's right. You're playing at home in front of your own fans. You're not going to get away with losing and losing heavily to Liverpool. I think that Arteta's going to have to pick a few more starters, and perhaps he really wants to, and give it a good go, because they really can't afford to lose another game.